Greetings to everyone. I am Ngabuto Nicholas Mabena, Chairman of the Zimbabwe Community in South Africa, member of the African Diaspora Forum Executive Committee, and the General Secretary of the Zimbabwe Communist Party. You will recall that last week we spoke about the right of migrant workers to join trade unions. That whether you are documented or undocumented, you must belong to a trade union, because the employers do abuse workers who do not belong to trade unions. These are what we call vulnerable workers. So the duty of a trade union is to protect its members against the exploitation of by the employer. So this is why that workers must organize themselves in a union. And mostly importantly, migrant workers in particular should not isolate themselves from other workers of South African origin. The strike of the workers can only be waged successfully when workers join hands under a progressive trade union movement. It is the trade union movement that fights for the rights of workers at the workplace. This is why it's important that every worker must belong to a union. COSATU has a slogan which says, organize the unorganized. And many workers remain unorganized. And it is our revolutionary duty to ensure that such workers are organized into a trade union movement. But why is it important for workers to join trade union movement? In this video, we want to talk briefly about domestic workers from the migrant community. You will appreciate that domestic workers in the main are drawn from the SADC region and of course all over the continent that work in South Africa. Be they Zimbabweans, be they Lesothos, be they from Burundi, be they from Lesotho, and other African countries with many migrants who work as domestic workers. Now, the challenge within the migrant community that is there is that some employers will employ a migrant as a domestic worker. They provide accommodation in what is called the stay-in. Those that work in the domestic industry, they understand what we mean by stay-in, which basically means that you stay at the workplace. Now, a domestic worker is then expected to start work as early as 5 a.m. The domestic worker will have to prepare kids going to school, prepare breakfast for the bosses before they go for work. So they are required, in most instances, to start work at 5, 6 a.m. They will spend the whole day working. When the employers return in the evening, who, by the way, themselves, most of them are also workers, when they return from their own jobs or businesses, at around 5 p.m., 6, 7 p.m., the domestic worker will still be at work in most cases. They will start to ask favors, what they call favors from the domestic worker, to ask the domestic worker to prepare dinner, wash dishes after dinner, and the domestic worker, in some cases, goes to sleep or knocks off at about 10 p.m. We've heard complaints by some domestic workers who are saying when their bosses come back from work, the bosses will ask them to assist them, whether to bake scones and so forth. That on its own is work, which is not paid for. Uh, then there's a question of off days. A domestic worker will be some who are stay in, they will be required to be off, say on a Saturday. They are staying at the workplace, they are off on a Saturday. But they are required then in the morning, on the off day, on the day that they are supposed to be off, to firstly do cleaning for about 2-3 hours. And then they can go for whatever on off day, visit friends and relatives. So you are off on a Saturday or Sunday, but you are required in the morning to firstly start by cleaning the house. Then at about 10 a.m., you are free to visit whoever you want to visit. And those hours are not paid for, but it is said to be an off day, but those hours are not paid for. The other challenge that domestic workers do have is that they are not allowed, the majority of them, to have visitors in their residences, because it is believed by the employer that if someone comes to visit the domestic worker, whether the boyfriend to come and sleep over, will steal from the employer. So you have a situation where domestic workers will not have their partners visiting them at the workplace, not allowed to bring in, even if they are off, a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They are supposed just to be themselves. If they are to go out, they go out after cleaning the house on an off day, say around 10 a.m. Then they are expected back in the evening. When they get back in the evening, probably they are visitors. And again, the domestic worker is called upon to assist because they are visitors in the house. What we also experienced during the national lockdown, as we are under this pandemic, is that domestic workers, many of them, were not allowed to go out because the employers were arguing that if you go out and visit friends, you will bring them COVID-19. But they themselves, employers, will go out, visit friends, come back to the same domestic workers. And they believe in that they themselves, employers, will not transmit COVID-19 to the domestic workers. In their belief, it is only the domestic worker that will transmit COVID-19 to them. That is a huge challenge. Of course, the other challenge with the domestic workers is that the employer does not pay them the minimum wage. Government gazetted the minimum wage because these are migrant domestic workers in the main. They are then exploited. They are not paid the minimum wage. This is where a trade union comes in. This is what a trade union ought to come in and assist the domestic workers to resolve the challenges at the workplace. Now, many migrants, particularly who are domestic workers, as well focusing on domestic workers, they've got this fear of joining a trade union movement, that either they are going to lose their jobs, they are going to be threatened by their employer. An employer does not want to see organized working class. An employer does not want to see workers getting organized, because if they are organized, they will challenge the very capitalist system that is oppressing the working class. So they will come up with all manner of excuses to try to discourage workers from joining a trade union, but they continue to exploit the domestic workers. It is in this context that as the Zimbabwe community in South Africa and as communists, we work with the Congress of South African Trade Unions to mobilize vulnerable workers in the domestic sector and in other sectors, but the focus for this video is domestic workers. We therefore work with the South African Domestic Services and Allied Workers Union, TSATSAU, that organizes domestic workers. It does not matter where you come from. Your nationality is not an issue. Whether you are documented, undocumented, it is not an issue. The issue is you are vulnerable to exploitation by the employer, and you must join a trade union movement. So if you are listening to this video, I'm leaving this contact number for Comrade Ntombi, is the Vice President of the South African Domestic Services and Allied Workers Union. She will assist you in joining their union. She's based in Durban, but if you contact her on WhatsApp, she will link you in every province in South Africa, wherever you are, to join the South African Domestic and Allied Workers Union. Her number is 072 661 7788. 072 661 7788. She's my comrade who I speak to her. So you tell her that Comrade Ngqabutho Mabhena of the Zimbabwe Communist Party, Zimbabwe Community in South Africa and African Diaspora Forum gave me your number. She will assist you. Whether you are documented, you are not documented, she will assist you to join a trade union. So please, let us ensure that all domestic workers of migrant origin belong to a trade union. The South African Domestic Services and Allied Workers Union is affiliated to COSATU. It is an affiliate of COSATU. Some comrades were asking, saying, Comrade Mabhena, how do we join COSATU? You don't join COSATU direct. You join its affiliate. In this case, in the domestic industry, it is South African Domestic Services and Allied Workers Union. So thank you so much. Please share your views. We'll continue to assist you so that if you are a domestic worker, you belong to a union. If you have challenges, even with the union in joining it, please share with us so that we continuously engage with the union. Please like the video, subscribe, circulate, share with the other comrades so that we organize the unorganized. Thank you so much. Bye bye.